Hello, everyone. Welcome to a regular Wednesday, 7 p.m. Climate Emergency Centre Zoom talk. We're alternating very interesting and exciting Zoom talks with every other week as a general meeting where people from different centres can update on what's going on and help and advise and support each other. So without too much further ado, we have the very exciting, the fantastic Rob from Doughnut Economics Action Lab, who's going to tell us all about Doughnut Economics. Over to you, Rob.
Lovely. Thank you, Phoenix, and great to see you all. Great to be here amongst practitioners, people, not waiting to take action, people creating spaces to, really invite people to talk about these ideas. So what a fabulous place to come and share the ideas of Doughnut Economics. My role is the Communities and Art Lead, which I'll explain in a bit. And over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to set my timer. I will share the essentials of the ideas of Doughnut Economics. I will share some tools of how you can apply them in your communities, and I will share some stories of places already doing that. Then we should have some time at the end for questions, but also, do ping questions in the chat as we go, and then Phoenix can see them. We can, mop them up at the end. So I'm going to share my screen. What we like to do with Deal and Doughnut Economics is take a step back, recognize, the bigger picture, the bigger kind of the root causes of the crises we're in, some of the economic thinking that's given rise to that. So, but let's have a look at the way the 21st century has begun. And it is a pretty turbulent 20 years. We've had 2009 financial meltdown, the ongoing climate and ecological breakdown, the impact of protesters being, locked down by cracked down by governments, and the more recent COVID lockdown. And these are crises arising repeated crises that show just how interconnected we are with each other around the world, communities around the world, and the natural world. They are revealing sharp inequalities of race, of gender, power, and wealth, both within nations, across nations, and they are revealing that the systems upon which we've, the economic systems we've created that are based on this predication of endless expansion being possible are revealing cracks in all different kinds of ways. This is economic thinking that has simplifications for convenience, assumptions and blind spots, power over nature, externalities of the health of communities and the living world. A system that narrows our imagination of what's possible, that pits nations against each other competitively rather than recognizing we are now part of a sort of a global planetary household, and cooperation is the path forward. It's a system based on separation. And so how can we actually reimagine an economic mindset that's fit for these complex, interconnected challenges of the 21st century? And rather than endless expansion, Kate Raworth came up with this idea of a donut and wrote the book in 2017, Doughnut Economics, to bring together all of the alternative economic thinking that's far more fit for these challenges: feminist economics, complexity economics, behavioral economics, ecological economics, and said, what would it mean if these all danced together on the same page together? And the goal of the economy would be the donut. Instead of endless expansion, that of balance, recognizing the limits of the planet and what it means to meet the needs of everyone. So in the center, we have the social foundation, crowdsourced from the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the social dimensions of healthy food and clean water and clean energy and access to education and income and networks and houses and gender equality, social equality, political voice and peace and justice. How can everyone in the world meet these essentials of life, whilst at the same time not overshooting these 9 planetary boundaries as defined by Earth system science, where we are putting too much pollution into the air or into the oceans or into the soil, or changing the land use and destroying biodiversity and taking too much water out of the rivers? How do we understand this delicate balance between the social foundation of meeting the needs of all within the ecological ceiling of the delicately balanced living planet? So the goal of the donut is to meet the needs of all within the means of the planet and being in the safe and just space of the donut in the middle there. And so if that's the goal of the economy, thriving people in a thriving planet, then how are we doing? And the picture's not great. So the red in the middle shows that billions of people are falling short in the essentials of life in the hole in the middle. Not one dimension are we meeting. And then we're collectively overshooting actually now 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries. This is the data from 2015, but we're currently updating it to Doughnut 3.0, the third iteration of the Doughnut, which is going to have dynamic data from 1990 all the way through to 2020 that also shows that chemical pollution of fresh water withdrawals is also overshooting. And we still haven't been able to quantify, scientists haven't been able to quantify air pollution. So the picture is not great, but we're the first generation to see this picture as humanity's selfie of how we're doing, our scorecard, our report card, and what would our teachers say? And if we were to look at this picture, we have a choice. Do we continue with the economic thinking, the public policy, and the business models that get us into this imbalance and simultaneous shortfall socially and ecological overshoot? Or do we say it's our choice to now recognize we've inherited economic thinking, public policies that are no longer fit for the complex interconnected challenges of the 21st century. And it's our choice to reimagine them, recreate them, and invite everyone to be a part of that process to bring us back into balance from both a social and ecological standpoint. So if this is our call to action, how do we then take that step into action? With Doughnut Economics, we offer two design dynamics that are like buttons to notice all the different ways that can move us into this lovely, doughy, juicy place. First of which is distributive design and then regenerative design. So I'm going to talk through those one by one. So regenerative design says we've inherited linear, degenerative, economic, industrial design processes where we take Earth's resources, we make them into things we want, we use them for a while, sometimes only once, and then we throw them away into Earth's things, whether that be the soil or the rivers or the lakes or the oceans. And by taking, making, using, losing, we are running down Earth's life supporting systems and going way over planetary boundaries. We need to turn those arrows around and design like nature designs. Nature has 3.8 billion years of R&D. Let's follow her lead and understand that there's no waste. Waste is always food for the next process. How do we break things down to the essentials and then repair, restore, remake, rewild? So all the things that we've taken out of the natural cycles like metals and plastics and synthetics, how do we be far more careful and intentional with those things so that we can repair and restore them more creatively and collectively? So we're regenerative and working with and within the cycles of the living world. And so it could be biological, where we're restoring landscapes, or it could be technical, where we're understanding all those materials that we now are responsible for stewarding back into the top of that industrial process, or the process of recreation and regenerative design. So there's loads of great work going on in these spaces. In the technical area, the word circular economics is really commonly used, but it's not just about being circular by design, because we also have to recognize our systems deeply divisive and centralizing of power, wealth, opportunity, and value into the hands of just a few. These are systems that are designed to create inequality and the rise of the 1%. And that impacts throughout the whole of society. So how can we instead be intentionally redistributive by design? So we understand the source of opportunity, value, wealth, and power, and how it flows amongst us, instead of being concentrating and centralizing, how it can distribute throughout all of our forms of organizing and all of our forms of value creation. So who has access, ownership, stewardship, and ownership of the land, of housing, of businesses, of utilities, and how can we actually redesign the ownership structures, governance structures, so that everyone is getting fair say and governance and access and a fair kind of dividend of that mutual wealth that we all have a stake in. And so some examples, for example, with ownership, housing is turned into an investment luxury where capital can flow from one country to another and rent people's essentials for housing as profit through renting. Instead, in Vienna, how can we think of housing as affordable social right, where 60% of housing is in public ownership, and it's got the lowest rent in the whole of Europe? Thinking about production, we have a globalized production system where goods flow, items, shipped around the world. These heavy products are shipped around the world at great ecological cost. Instead, how can we recognize open source design and local fabrication? So we're sharing ideas and we have the means to create them locally. So agency is in our hands, in our communities, to be able to produce things. So they don't have to be shipped around the world. We've all got access to these great ideas. So there's just a couple of examples of distributive design and regenerative design, but all of the technical solutions to create regenerative and distributive futures are there already. So it's about how do we now kind of share these wonderful practices and come together across all of our different economic roles, from the market and the state and the household and the commons and all these different roles, to bring these together and kind of pour our imagination into how we bring these into practice. And ever since the donut, this image was first released and the book was then published in 2017, people have been taking it and making it their own. There's something about the donut, which is really unintimidating in the way that economics can put people off. It invites our creativity, invites art and culture and ways of looking at the world in new and fresh ways. It's a way that we see people, moving towards this positive goal of a positive future, which is such a quality of this idea. And so people spontaneously started taking these ideas off the page, but actually, how can we, and Kate's question to herself was, what can I do to really enable the people who want to take these ideas and put them into action? And so in 2019, Kate created Doughnut Economics Action Lab to turn the ideas of Doughnut Economics into action. This is a picture of the homepage, where you can find us at doughnut-economics.org. And it's a community that's absolutely buzzing with action around the world. I'm so fortunate to work with these amazing communities who are doing such beautifully creative things. But it's not just communities. We've got over 11,000 people in countries all across the world, in lots of different cultural contexts, where we say, don't just think about the donut. What is the cultural equivalent for you? What's the food or the object or the item that you resonate with that symbolizes this picture of balance? And so it just invites everyone to bring their own way of seeing and relating to the question. And I learned recently this ping an ku in the middle is a gift that they give in China to someone you care about, where the inner ring represents your inner life and what it means to thrive, and the outer part of it represents all of humanity and all living beings. And so it's also green. So this is a beautiful thing to learn, that this is a symbol that might be far more relevant in China than the American donut with a hole in the middle that might not be exactly what it's actually. No one in China really eats donuts like that. So this is a far better metaphor for this type of economic thinking. And across the Deal community, I've mentioned communities, but we're working with city governments, we're working with academics, we're working with businesses, schools and universities, and actually governments have come to ask how they can apply it too. We're working with the government of Bhutan, and also lots of other publicly, but lots of other governments have shown interest as well, and we get lovely opportunities to kind of begin to influence the thinking there too. So it's a very diverse community of people putting these ideas into practice. And so it's a really unique role that the Doughnut has to convene stakeholders and people, economic actors across the economy, which I think is, we then move into really powerful dialogue for change. But looking at communities specifically, I've got this kind of rippling out of scales from the household to the street, neighborhood, city, region, nation, international. And actually, Doughnut Economics is being applied to all these different communities, these scales of community, where people at the household are picking up the book, thinking about how they can apply the ideas in their lives, taking action in their choices and behaviors they're able to make, and then discussing it around the kitchen table with family. Then bring it to the street and neighbors and discussing these ideas with others in welcoming ways, and doing all kinds of brilliant things that connect each other, and taking civic action, building a rich sense of community about what you're doing. Then the city regional scale, where you might not brush past people every single day, but actually you still care about the same biome, for example, you can connect with others who are working for change in different areas. Like an academic might connect with someone working in the city, who might connect with some community organizers, who might connect with a school teacher, who might going to connect with someone in business. And all of a sudden you've got a powerful network of people around this common idea, and they're working for change. And then internationally, we've got all of these groups learning from each other around the world. And we know that peer-to-peer inspiration of these ideas really does accelerate how much they're taken up. And so I work with community catalysts, people kind of inspiring, such as yourselves, so people in creating containers for these conversations, and also designing methods for the 80% of people who don't think economics is for them, because it really is. We can design methods that make people part of the conversation and sharing their ideas and aspirations. And I work with organizers of these groups and all of these open group and networks, about 30 or 40 of them around the world. And they use the tools that are on the Deal website. And these are some of the core tools we've designed. But there are also lots of tools being created by community members. And we're also inviting people to pick these tools up, innovate them in their own specific context, share back stories and tools, not the other way around. And that kind of builds this knowledge of practice and commons of knowledge and practice over time. So we've got loads of stories of practice, loads of tools being added to the Deal website. But I'm going to hone in on one specific one that I think is of particular relevance to climate emergency centres, which is the Doughnut Unrolled portrait of place. And the reason why we've created this tool is because if we have this big goal of the donut for humanity, it's a global goal that we're all aspiring towards. But how do we take action on that locally? How do we have agency towards that goal? And so we created a method where we unroll the donut. Sounds a bit silly, but actually we keep the social foundation and we keep the ecological ceiling. And then we add these two geographic scales of local and global. And so we create then 4 lenses to explore social local, ecological local, and global ecological and global social. And so I'm going to go through each of those one by one. But first of all, the big question we ask communities to consider is, how can our community become home to thriving people in a thriving place while respecting the well-being of all people and the health of the whole planet? And it's a big question that, you know, needs to be broken down into bite-sized pieces to allow us to really explore. Just kind of hearing someone over the audio. I don't know if you're able to mute yourselves. And so the first thing we do is recognize, if we were to divide local and global, we can have local aspirations of what does it mean for our community to thrive. And then we can have global responsibility as recognizing, yes, we want to thrive. And also our thriving depends on the interconnections globally. And also we have a role in bringing humanity into the donut. So how can we better understand those? And so we break those down, firstly, into the local social. How can all the people of our community thrive? The second is local ecological. How can our community be as generous as nature and restore and rewild all of the natural systems around us? Systems, it's sort of a technical way of describing it, all of the abundance of nature in our place. The global ecological, how can our community respect the health of the whole planet? And then the global social, how can our community respect the well-being of all people? And so these are 4 lenses that can act as like a thinking compass that you can apply to a project, a policy, an organization, I don't know, your whole place. You can map all kinds of things and how you can get into this space of the donut within your place. And that's contributing to the global challenge of the donut. So the first lens, the local social, how can all the people of our community thrive? So what does thriving mean to people in your community, and whose voice is not yet being heard? And how can we understand that and go to the places and understand the means of expression and communication and culture of the people who aren't part of these conversations? And these dimensions that can help us understand these can be defined by all the people of your community. So these are dimensions that we offer initially that come from the Sustainable Development Goals, but also we've added more to them, such as mobility and community and culture and connectivity. And so we really invite you to add more dimensions about what this means to you, so you can begin to measure these things. In Birmingham, they've added play as well, which I love. So then we get to local ecological. How can the community be as generous as nature? This is one that's so often overlooked when we think about the planetary ecological crises. Because if we're to have impact on those global crises, we really need to think about how nature designs in all of our places locally, which will aggregate to a really healthy, thriving planet. So how can we understand the ways in which nature is solving all of these things of storing carbon, welcoming wildlife, cycling water, harvesting energy, enhancing well-being, and how can we aim to match that in our communities? And there are so many brilliant ways that nature is doing that we can learn from using biomimicry. So we've got these 8 dimensions from Biomimicry 3.8, which is an organization that just open, like, is a platform for so many people to share nature's genius and then have people innovate from these ideas. So cleaning the air, housing biodiversity, and all these other dimensions are things that we can then bring into our communities and our built environment. Thirdly, third lens, global ecological. How can our community respect the health of the whole planet? And so we have actions and behaviors and choices that we make daily about the food we eat, the clothes that we wear, the electronics we use, the household products, the buildings that we inhabit. And we can understand their impact and we can look into that. And so many people are making these choices, which is really brilliant. We can look into the invisible impacts of the way we, heat our homes and the infrastructure of our local transport and the global impacts there. So we can understand how what we thrive locally depends on the health of the whole planet and the systems upon which all these material and energy impacts are embedded. And so these dimensions for the global ecological lens come from the 9 planetary boundaries. So now we're looking essentially at the donut. What's our community's impact on the donut? So then lastly, the hardest lens to get our head around is the global social lens, where we have to recognize that our community has impacts on the well-being of all people through the impacts of the things I've just mentioned above, but more beyond that. So how do actions and decisions taken here have implications for people worldwide? So the supply chains of the products of the things that we like, the lifestyle patterns of the conveniences of our life, such as travel. The cultural connections is a really positive thing. So we can build understanding and bridges and empathy connections with cultures around the world. When we have climate migration, how do we really embrace the welcome to all migrants? And then recognizing the policy regimes of those in power in our states, and to be able to lobby for and stand up for the rights of those globally, where we're the policies that might benefit our country are having detrimental impacts worldwide, and shining a light on those. And so these social dimensions come from the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So everyone has a claim to these globally, because 193 governments have all agreed to them. And so this is the central whole, the central circle, the social foundation of the global donut. So there we have the 4 lenses of Doughnut Unrolled, a thinking compass for your place. And there are so many ways to then begin to populate this. We call this holistically a portrait of your place, when you begin to build up over time a picture of your place through understanding, for example, the challenges already in your place. You can actually map those outside the ecological ceiling and under the social foundation, but you can also map the changes already underway in the lovely space of the donut, things that are already moving us towards the future we want. You can understand the current indicators and targets for your place. So we've got all these dimensions. You can understand with public policy in your place, what has your local council agreed? What are they measuring? What are their goals? Well, how well are you doing? You can begin to build up what we call a data portrait of a place. But beyond that, we can invite anyone, no matter how much they know about the challenges or changes or indicators or targets. Anyone can bring their dreams and their possibilities and their questions to this. And so we think a great way in is actually just asking questions. Well, where, for example, is our most wild nature nearby? Who has access? Who's stewarding that? How can we get access to that? These are questions that anyone can ask, and just begin to. I think asking the right questions is the most important skill before having all the right answers to the wrong questions. And so here are some examples, some stories in Leeds. Someone is from Leeds here today, and they created a data portrait of place first, and then shared it with the community. So collaboration with the university, and then they released this beautiful report and held a workshop in April last year. And everyone came together and said, wow, if that's the health of Leeds, what are the questions this open up? And so they started exploring things through the 4 lenses. And so it's the beginning of a journey, and they want to accompany people on the journey of exploring what steps they can take, and they can amplify the stuff, getting us into the donut, and they can scale down and support the transition out of things that are being harmful. And then Leeds inspired Birmingham. So Civic Square is an organization placed in central Birmingham, Ladywood, and they've created the first ever neighbourhood of portrait, where they're taking the leads approach of creating data portrait, but they've also created a beautiful, rich community portrait with so many layers of experience and imagination, really powerful, like imagination from activists, but also all the residents. And they've created this new good news of B16, which is their postcode, which that woman in top left's reading, which is a fantastic newsletter of all the brilliant things already happening. It's just page after page of inspiration. And so what a difference that is compared to the things that we pick up in, in the news at the moment. And so really positive stories of change can really energize communities and catalyze them towards a thriving future. And they're creating invitations and connections across the neighborhood and beyond for everyone to be a part of it. And what is it to create a container like you do with your climate emergency centers and sustain people with, nourish people with lovely hot drinks and food and conversation and ideas, and then welcome people through these powerful, well, you can bring in speakers and you can bring in workshops and things like that to explore so many different things. So Civic Square are doing that fantastically, and they've also connected internationally and held peer learning groups around the different chapters of Doughnut Economics and got people really deep into the sort of the technical concepts, but everyone's able to do it, and it's been really energizing. In Guildford, the Zero Carbon Guildford, which is one of the climate emergency centers, have been fantastic at inviting me down to practice kind of new workshops where we use interactivity and experiential methods to explore the ideas on the floor. So might introduce the ideas technically, but then let's say, okay, how do we map it on the floor and move it around these spaces? And then we move in around the spaces, our body feels them in a different way. And when we're having conversations one-to-one with someone about how our concerns or the things we care about, relate to these deep questions, it kind of shifts us into a different space of understanding and of imagining. And so, yeah, I just really, and bottom left there, this is Rachel Kelly, who's actually from Cheltenham, who started a fantastic center there. He's visiting Zero and kind of loving this kind of picture on the wall. And actually I'm standing there in front of the 4 lenses that they were beginning to create so that people can have like a board that they can add things to, and it can be like a living 4 lenses board for anyone who visits the center to contribute to. And on the right there was the first time we trialed what then in Oxford I tested more as the floor lenses, and we explored firstly the question, what does it mean to you to thrive? But then people were moving in and around the floor lenses instead of the 4 lenses, love a good pun, and asking deepening questions and inquiries. And it was just a really enlivening process for everyone there. In Rio de Janeiro, they've been exploring using the 4 lenses to explore in a favela of Pena, what well-being means there. And well-being absolutely is a key part of their brilliant, like wonderful, creative lives where there is still fear of violence nearby. So there's just kind of a different orientation to well-being and understanding the impacts there. But just kind of we work with people from across contexts in the global south who believe these questions of the 4 lenses absolutely give space for them to explore too. Some of the dynamics are different, but actually there's such big holding questions that if every single community around the world does the work, all of these, the sort of local aspirations knit together beautifully, given, we've done the work on the global responsibilities. In Norway, they're connecting people across the whole nation around Doughnut Economics and creating beautiful appreciative inquiry approaches where everyone has gifts and skills to bring to a process of kind of learning and of kind of mutual support. So they did the first one in September last year, and they've got another one coming up this year. And it's just they're going into all of the different kind of parts of the economy, inviting academics and cities and schools and businesses to be part of this process. And similar to that, in Amsterdam, they've gone through several iterations of learning cycles, and they've got about 1,200 people in their network of change. And they had recently, actually in October, this Doughnut Deal Day, and they've created this thing called the Doughnut Deal, where the conversations turn into action, and you get commitments from the municipality and from communities and businesses together to say, we're going to work on this particular social and ecological challenge. And here they are on stage, standing on the donut. This is them having lifted their hands in the air after making a pact. And so, and the guy on the right taking a photo, these are public kind of declarations of intention. We're going to do this work together. And so the donut is a powerful convening idea, and it's playful, it's graspable, and it's really catalyzing this collaborative action. And so the collaborative action from government, corporations, universities, communities, small enterprises, civil organizations, and the people in green are the people who don't want to wait to act, and they connect together. They hold their hand up and they say, yes, I want to work with you across these silos. If we can work in our silos, we're only going to get so far, but actually we can create these groups and networks. And there are almost 40 of these around the world now, containers for connection, where we make visible the change already happening, and we amplify that which is good, and we increase the imaginative capacity of our communities to move towards the space of the donut. So just to summarize then, there are ideas that have really inspired people coming from the book Doughnut Economics. You can go on the website, you can see starter videos just to learn about them, but do connect with other people as well, and connect with people in the UK. There are lots of communities you'll find there across the UK, and I see there's someone here from Carmarthen as well, and the local Motion Carmarthen group are going to be working with some of these tools to see how that could apply to their local high street and Church Stretton, and there are so many communities in Guildford and across the UK using these ideas too. But it's great to learn internationally and to pick these tools up and share how you're finding them to inspire other people into action too. So this is probably the first time in my life I've done that in under the time I was allocated. So I'm just going to stop there whilst I'm ahead.
Wow, absolutely fantastic. Round of applause there for Rob. Brilliant. Silent applause, whatever that one is. Really good, Rob. Really inspiring. Thank you so much. That's I've had a broad, rough understanding of donut economics, but that makes it a lot clearer. I've probably got a few questions myself, but let's see what the University Challenge panel around the country would like to ask you. I love there from Lucy Wills. Hello, Lucy. Lovely to see you. So down the bottom of the Zoom window, there's this reactions thing, like a little smiley face with a plus. And if you click on that, you can raise a hand and then lower your hand after. So that really helps me see who's 1, 2, and 3, and what we used to call in Occupy the stack of people who want to speak at the assembly. So stick that up, that really helps. Number 1, Anna in sunny Islington. Number 2, John in sunny Oswestry. And so yeah, we're on 1:45. We'll probably run till about 5 or 10 past. Let's give it a bit more time because it's very popular tonight, Rob. Okay, over to Anna. Pick up the Islington team. Over.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Rob. It was really interesting. I guess, I just always look at what Guildford are doing and think, oh God, that's brilliant. I want to do that. So my question is, how do I get now I'm temporarily embarrassed about a venue at the moment, but it won't last long. So how do we book those things? And also we're in quite a lucky position in Islington at the moment, which we've got a nice little working relationship with our local newspapers. And so I think that there might be something that's a bit People's Assembly-y and a bit Doughnut Economic-y that we can actually get off the ground here, maybe not even in the Climate Centre, maybe in the Town Hall. So it's just, what is the process for making those things happen, please?
I'll share my email and we'll start a conversation. The idea is that there's so many things that I could go through around our strategy. One of them is to be a small team, big impact. We're only a team of 12, but we have a global community of 12,000. So we can't be in all the places. And so we hopefully design tools that anyone can pick up and use. Now that is a process where we know some things are too complex initially. And so we're always trying to like a balancing act of how we give people kind of tools that are transformative enough, but not too complex and that kind of thing. So let's have a conversation about what you want to do. I'll put my email in the chat. Anyone can contact me. And then we can go from there. How does that sound, Anna?
That sounds good. Also, if there's any trainings for how to get these workshops going, what I'm finding is that workshops work better than anything. So interactive, I loved your floor lenses and all that stuff. We could really get going with some of that, but we will probably need a shove to get us started.
Great. We've got some trainings at the moment on the business tool. That's happening at the moment, but we're not quite yet there with trainings on the floor lenses. I haven't finished writing that up as a tool yet, but there is a tool already called Step Into the Doughnut, which uses ropes So that's on the website, and we will be running some trainings on that too. So do, keep an eye on a newsletter as well, which comes out every month.
Cool. Over to John.
Hi. Yeah, I was going to talk about that as well. The other thing was displays and like getting a nice, because we'd love to have a nice visual of Doughnut Economics so that people who are not familiar with it can come in and learn what it's about. Do you have those kind of resources, or you have files that we can use to create our own?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got all the kind of PDFs you can use so that they can be nice and high res. However, another approach is, getting the paint out. and there's something really nice about handmade and sort of bringing your own kind of community feel to it. And that can be a lovely process, doing that with other people too. So, you can have options for both. If you want to have then like there's the technical version on a table somewhere, or like in other places around, we've got all those as well. So if you go onto the website and type in the word print, you'll find Doughnut images to print.
Cool. Whereabouts on the website did you say just then, and then over to Alan?
I can, well, just go and just doughuteconomics.org, and if you type the words print in the search box, I'm sure it will take you to diagrams. There we are. Doughnut ready to print comes up. But also, if you doesn't have all the diagrams there, but if you type in, I'll put it in the chat actually. We have a tool which is the Doughnut in over 25 languages, but it's got all of the diagrams that you can then print in high resolution as well. So it's got, yeah.
Cool. One of the things we want to do is scale up so that centres can have, displays about all these kind of things. So we'll definitely network that one. Over to Alan, the whole team.
Hi Rob, that was amazing. Thank you
Hi,
for that. Learnt loads there. I knew a bit about Doughnut Economics. I know a lot more now, so that's fantastic. Got a big event coming up in end of June, beginning of July time, with Association of Sustainability Practitioners and Fund Green Tech and a lot of people like that coming to Hull to do things. I think this would be something to do as a workshop, which would be really cool, that would get the message across to a lot of people, especially the, what did you call it? Step into the Doughnut looks really good. I just wondered, one of the things that we're having is Climate Fresk sessions, because I'm one of the trainers, but with the arrangement with Climate Fresk, when you're a trainer, you have to pay a license fee, and everyone who does it, you pay £3 and etc. Is there any such things around this? Or can we just get people to do it?
we have this magical currency called reciprocity, which is that we give away all the tools for free, and all we ask in return is that you say how you found it. So if you post a story back on the platform going like, hey, we did this bit worked, this could be improved, and then you post some pictures, and then everyone else goes, oh, Hull's done that cool thing. And that's kind of where we see that's so much more valuable to us than £3. So yeah, so that would be great.
That would be amazing. Well, in that case, I will speak to the team who are organising and definitely would like to do that with people, and yeah, point them in your direction. So we'll do that.
Fantastic. Yeah, do get in touch.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alan.
Dinah, Sonny Lewis.
Yeah. Hiya. Yeah.
Hi, Dinah.
This is a little bit kind of ridiculous, but kind of also off the wall. At the moment, there's all these strikes going on. Everyone's striking for a pay rise. Everyone could be striking just as easily for a new deal that was a capitalist model. They could just put it into all their strikes, and then everyone would really be striking for something different. Does your organisation bother to talk to the users? Because unfortunately, they seem to be locked in this divide and rule mentality where everyone's just shouting for their own pay rise, which I totally understand. But we've got like 10 unions out, and if they were all striking nationally for the same thing, a green new economic deal based, for example, on Doughnut Economics, they would get their pay rise and everything would change. And I know it's a bit lag, but I just thought I'd put it out there.
Great. No, thanks, Dinah. Thanks for the question. So we have another strategic foundation of our work, which is that we go where the energy is. We don't knock on closed doors. So if unions want to come and speak to us about their work and understand how to bring doughnut economics into a strike, then we'd be up for that conversation. But we don't proactively go to places, because we recognize that the change that's possible when someone comes to you with their energy is far more transformative than us expending energy going to other people and knocking on their doors. It's not a conversation we've had, but it's a really interesting question, because there are tensions there, aren't there? There's people's social foundation of meeting their needs in these strikes. So it's not to kind of dilute that. I think what you raise is a great question.
Anyone else up for pop one in there? Or I've got a couple. Right, well, we'll see if anyone else wants to stick your hand up. So just a couple, Rob, from I think during your talk you said
Alex, sorry.
So was that Amy? What was
Alex,
that, Rob?
I saw Alex put her hand up, and then I realized you'd already started asking your question. So
Alex, go for it if you want. I talk enough. I try and share around the circle as much as I can. Alex, did you have one?
I just wanted to say thank you, Rob, so much. I know much more about doughnut economics now. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Alex.
Nice. Yes, I've definitely learned a lot on this one, and it is recorded, so it'll go onto a YouTube after this and be posted on the Telegram and maybe Facebook, but Facebook cuts down on YouTube. Just a couple of things you talked. I think you said 9 out of 15 boundaries have already been exceeded. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
6 out of 9.
6 out of 9 boundaries have been exceeded. Wow.
Yeah, and then one's yet to be quantified.
Okay, I'll pull it back in. You mentioned utilities. What does utilities look like under doughnut economics? Are they nationalized? Are they locally distributed? Or?
Well, we're seeing innovation around public commons partnerships. That's a model. But the thing is, I think we have to look at all of the. Gosh, I saw some fantastic slides Kate made on this the other day. You know what? Do you want to give me just a second? I've got them here, and it will just really shine a light on. I think.
Cool. Have a quick search and pop them up.
Yeah. Just bear with me 2 moments.
Bear with. I'm just going to put a couple more in. Just what I need to check was. We would love to invite you to do a doughnut economics kind of either physical conference or the physical workshop like you did in Guildford, Zero Carbon Guildford. We've got a new kind of building in Cockfosters, Space Generators charity, like an Enfield Climate Emergency Centre, and it's big enough to do like 200-300 people conferences. Maybe you could come and do a doughnut economics conference, or just a workshop like you did in Guildford. Open invitation for that, and also just maybe like you did in Guildford, potentially any of the other 20 CCs would love you guys to come along and do a workshop for 5, 20, 10, 15, 30 people about doughnut economics. Physically real meetings with people in the same room. We really need to accelerate since recent times.
Well, I wonder whether we have a follow-up session we can ping around an email to people where we can create a specific training on the workshops, training on the tools, and then people can understand, right, okay, I feel equipped to kind of pick this up and run with it, because the guides will be there. And then if anyone wants additional support, we can understand that. Or if any people want to like extend the tool into a new area, like to involve like business or involve, like local councils into it, then we can explore that would mean for them. But like we can have a starter where we just go a little deeper into what these tools look like.
Sorry, the exact process of that, you said you send us an email, we send it to the network. Is that an email for?
It depends how you'd like to do it. I'm not sure whether you've got sort of newsletter or something like that, but we could find a date that works for people. You could share. I know it could be a 2-hour slot, so it allows us a bit of space and time just to kind of get into those tools, and that could be a starting point.
Okay, so the 2 action points to take from that is, one, if you send us a short, few sentences or something about that, we'll put that in the newsletter email out, and then we'll arrange another session maybe in a month and a half or 2 when you can fit it in for more people to come and learn the tools. That would be great. Very popular tonight. Did you find the slides? And then
I did find the slides. Yeah. So there's another. So I introduced regenerative and distributive design. Those are two of the chapters, but there are actually more chapters that go into other economic ideas. And one of the really powerful diagrams of doughnut economics is the embedded economy diagram. Now, this is a slight iteration of it. But this is trying to recognize that, firstly, the economy is embedded within society, which is embedded within the living world, upon which it depends. So the economy depends on society, depends on Earth. But within the economy, we have inherited sort of market state binary mentality from the 20th century, which shows up in GDP. And what the economy, mainstream economics, holds in largely invisible is all that's created in the household, all that's created in the commons. So the household being all the unpaid care work, the commons being all of the community stewarding, the value co-creation. And we can look across the different parts of the economy to show how there are different. Sorry, you seeing my screen?
Yes, I think we can. Yeah, we can see your screen still. Yes.
Yeah, and you can see now the four realms. Yeah. So there are different ways in which we can provision for our the essentials of life across all of these. So subsistence agriculture within the household, within the state, we have state-owned farmed, shared irrigation, commercial farming. So they can work in their unique strengths and skills across all these different areas. Four realms generate energy in different ways, and they have the different qualities when they provision in these different ways. They have the different limits. They have the different things that they, particular kind of solutions they're good at sort of meeting. All realms generate money in the different various forms. And how can we open our imagination to different types of exchange within the household and commons? And there are synergies between them. So here's an example of then installation grants between the state and the household, how we have the market and the household coming together to create microgrids, which is enabling households' energy sovereignty through solar power. Market and the commons, loads of brilliant open source innovation, platform cooperativism, cryptocurrencies, the state and the commons. So this is the public commons partnerships that I just mentioned, which is why the slide came to mind. But there are community land trusts being another example. So legal structures that put land into community ownership in perpetuity. And so there are different ways in which we can understand these four realms of provisioning and understand the different ways in which they can work together. So I just wanted to show this as another economic idea. Sometimes I rarely show that because it's just, there's so much to cover in 30 minutes, but I just thought that was useful.
Brilliant, Rob. You've done really well. I'm gonna there's hopefully, if the group is okay for another 5-10 minutes, this is amazing, interesting night. Do beam off if you have to. Say goodbye in the chat. We will do a quick go round of a few words of what you thought afterwards. I've got 3 short questions which I would ask either the people to ask or Rob to be succinct in his answer. Pius, did you want to ask your question? How does doughnut economics? Do you wish to expand doughnut economics to Africa? Pius, are you with us? Do you want to just clarify that? Because can you hear us?
Thank you very much. I don't know if the clear network is a problem issue.
We can hear you. Yes.
First of all, thank you, Rob, for the lecture. I used to think I'm the only one that doesn't understand the doughnut economics. Maybe it's not this way in Africa, but at least today I tried to get a clear picture. So my question is, do you have plans of expanding this to Africa? Like maybe you can partner with universities this side and make up with students that do the same or that are in love with such work.
Great question. Thank you, Pius. Yes, the idea is already being put into practice in Africa. Here's a story from Nigeria. And I'm just going to quickly share another story of the 4 lenses sparking connections cards being used there's an African entrepreneurs network. There are people using it in Ubuntu Lab. And yeah, there are lots of African connections, but I think definitely it's almost ready to take off, but it hasn't actually necessarily, there's not been so many stories come through from Africa yet, but I think, yeah, there's lots of opportunity there.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think you mentioned 40 groups around the world, Rob. So is there a map on the website or a link to those groups we can follow?
There is, yeah. If you go to Open Groups and Networks, as part of the Deal community, I can put another link in there. There's no groups in Africa, no groups or networks in Africa yet. But this is one of our other principles: is we don't want to become we don't be the movement, but join the movement and use the tools within your existing networks, that kind of thing. We're all part of a wider movement of change, and so there doesn't need to be a Doughnut Economics Africa or specific country network, but if you want to bring the tools into that work, then it's just it can be a useful language.
Right, cool. So brief question there from Laurie and Sue. Laurie, would you like to say what you were saying there on the chat, Laurie?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And actually, I just looking at your site. On your site, do you have sort of like summaries of what Guildford did or what Leeds did? Just because it could be a guide, I think, particularly also for this group that wants to do something similar for their center. Of course, they're not going to replicate it, but
Yeah, so that's one of actually the big things that we find tricky, is that we invite people to share their stories, and doesn't always come through, I'll be honest. So we don't have stories for Guildford yet, but we have one for Leeds, but not the full story there. So we've just yesterday our communications lead has started in the team, and this is going to be their major things, and making it easier for people to share stories, but also being there to support people write their stories. So you'll see, if you search Leeds, you will see a story about that. Nothing on Guildford yet, but I'm sure if you contact the Zero team, then I'm sure they'll be able to share a little bit on it.
Okay, thanks.
Well, over to Sue for the last question in sunny Carmarthen for University Challenge. Over.
Yeah, I was just interested to hear you saying that you've been working with local motion, and I just wondered what your involvement had been, because so far in Carmarthen we've heard this word a lot, but we're still not entirely sure how it's going to work with us.
So we've got a session on the 7th of February. So I'll be presenting some of these ideas. We've got 2 hours. So we're going into a bit more depth about these ideas. And then they'll go into a 2-month process of kind of working with them and understanding which tools they want to use. And then might be joining you in person in April. So it's a case of kind of saying what do you as a Carmarthen community want to work with.
Can't
If
wait.
you get in touch with local motion Carmarthenshire, hopefully they'll be able to share that with you.
Okay. Okay, so
Carmarthen.
okay. Fantastic, guys. We run a little. We're all good. Just thank you very much for everyone's precious time. Just to say, what have we got? Next week we have a general meeting where any of the groups around the network can come and update us on how their centre or group or projects are going, ask for help, advice, support, and share from the older groups to the newer groups how we help each other. And then the following week, I think that's February the 1st, then the following Wednesday, February the 8th, Moth Year is coming from the Good Law Project and New Economy Law to talk about giving rights to Mother Nature, and particularly rivers, and how we could possibly adopt or link to local rivers and support them. Just to mention, Dinah, thank you very much for taking some notes. I'm not expecting anything too comprehensive, but if there's anything in the chat, you can save the chat and just add any of the websites in. That would be great if you didn't get them already. And then maybe if we could post that in the Telegram, that would be great. Shall we just do a few word checkout? Dinah, thank you. I don't know if you can hear us. Thank you very much for taking notes.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Thank you. Great. I'll get the notes to you. And who should I send them to the CEC chat, or should I send them to you? Where do they go?
Put them in the CEC Telegram chat. Then everyone's got it.
Fabulous. Will do. Probably tomorrow afternoon.
That's fine. Thank you so much for doing that. I get repetitive strain injury. I'm trying to save myself. Let's do a few word checkout. Everyone is still here. Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Very popular tonight, Rob and Doughnut Economics. Over to Alan in Sunny Hull for a few words. Check out how you felt about tonight. Over.
Fabulous session, absolutely thoroughly enjoyed that, learnt loads, definitely want to do something at the event that we've got coming up, and just ideas going crazy now. So we'll be in touch, make things happen in Hull. Thank you for the info. Let's do it.
You want to pass to someone? She's checking out this new wavy one like this.
How about Sue?
Yeah, thank you. Really interesting, Rob. And yeah, I've been watching over this for a long time, so it's really good to think that we might actually get to do something that makes it happen. And I'll pass to Anna.
Yeah, love it. Ditto everything everybody said. It's just finding the time and the way in to then get the ball rolling, which I'm excited about. Anyway, I'll pass over to Debs.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to do something. But as I say, I know that there's already a big group of people like Matthew Brown and everyone, they're on the case and they're way cleverer than I am. Economics to me sometimes goes like, yeah. So I do want to do something, but maybe in April or something like that. I will pass to, who's that been?
John? Oswestry?
I'll turn
Yeah,
my video
thanks.
back off.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, I read the book actually years ago, but I'm just wondering how we're going to get it into our centre. So it's been great to hear from you. The one thing that I saw that I actually really liked was in Birmingham, where they've done the little newspaper about the positive things that are going on. So I might steal that idea.
Absolutely.
But we'll definitely try and get some of the Doughnut resources into our CEC. So thanks a lot.
Fantastic.
And I'll pass on to Lucy, is it?
Lucy, for the Campaign for Climate Change, old friend, early campaigner on climate. Are you with us?
Hello there. Yes, I was. After having my microphone on earlier, I couldn't find to switch it off. Anyway, yes, that was really inspiring, really helpful. I'm familiar with the model, but thinking about how we actually take it forward. I want to try and get to the Guildford Centre more often. It's fairly close to me. But I think what we have to look at as well is what people can do away from the centres, what they can do from their own homes, what people, to properly decentralise it. So I think that's the next thought experiment, is how do we do, what's the next level of outreach?
Ooh, nice one, Lucy. Lovely. Over to Real Me and then to Pius. Real Me RMX, can you hear us? Okay, lady was there earlier. Okay, coming across to Pius. We're just going to 10 past now. Pius, do you want to say a few words for checkout? Over.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I would just appreciate Rob. Yeah, I've got now a clear picture, and I guess he has given us the tools I can read a thing and learn or two. But what I think of doing is there is a group of students I will talk to and see if they get interest in this and they can explore it more, so they can take this opportunity to blend it into their work. I'll talk to them. I think next week is when I'll try to reach out to one of them. Yeah, I see it works, and since they have applied it in Africa and it has worked, I think applying it in Uganda is also something good.
Great to hear that, Pius. Thank you. Do reach out if you want to talk more.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much, Rob, for coming. Really popular one tonight. Hope to see everyone next Wednesday that can come give us an update from your centre, or any help or support we can all give each other, old and new centres, to grow and build climate resilient networks in our towns and cities, and build alliances of groups that are really going to get on with promoting the solutions. Glad to hear solutions mentioned a bit there. Thank you very much to everyone for your precious time. Take care. Have a great night. Hope to see you next Wednesday or soon. Or coming to a
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Okay, stop recording.